Okay, I'm just going to let Michelle pull up the slideshow. There we
Okay,
go.
can everyone see it?
I can see
We
it.
can, yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Katy Rawdon, and I'm the coordinator of technical services for Temple University's Special Collections Research Center. And my co-presenter is Michelle MacInsky, who is the technology projects librarian at Temple University Libraries. Next slide. Temple University is a large public university in North Philadelphia, and our Special Collections Research Center holds over 40,000 linear feet of archival materials. Many of those collections are very large and very complex. Next slide. Prior to our ArchivesSpace implementation around 2019, our accession records were on paper and our finding aids were in Word or static HTML, or also on paper. Next slide. Locations of collections where we knew them were in word lists. For a lot of collections, we had no recorded locations and even had no record at all of the existence of many of them. This made retrieval a little challenging. Since we were at the time building a new library building and had to move everything out of our old library, we implemented a quick and dirty DB TextWorks database to enter existing accession records and locations into, and also to survey all of the collections that we had to move. Next slide. In 2019, we moved, and then we began preparing to implement ArchivesSpace. Next slide. We migrated our more than 3,000 accession records during COVID lockdown in 2020, and also spent much of lockdown learning how to use ArchivesSpace since no one in our department had ever used it before. And we spent a lot of time creating documentation for how we would use it moving forward. Next slide. We began migrating our over 500 finding aids in 2022 by standardizing our Word finding aids into DAX-compliant chunks, sending them to a vendor to be marked up in EAD, and then having lyricists bulk import them, followed by a bunch of additional cleanup and adding locations. We also imported several hundred MARC records for single-item manuscripts that didn't have finding aids. Next slide. We now use only ArchivesSpace for both accessioning and finding aid creation, and we've also implemented the PUI and the Aeon integration. Next slide. So before migration, we created collection-level MARC records for all archival collections in Alma, our ILS, so patrons would be able to find them in our catalog, since many patrons didn't know to look for the ArchivesSpace POI on our website, and also because we wanted those records included in WorldCat. However, because of the size and complexity of our collections, patrons often couldn't find what they were looking for deeper inside the finding aid hierarchy through those MARC records, and many weren't aware that they needed to go to the ArchivesSpace POI to do that deeper search. And that's where Michelle comes in.
So over the summer, Katie and I and a few other colleagues began discussing how we could improve access to archival materials from our main discovery platform, Library Search, and better connect users to ArchivesSpace. Library Search is built on Blacklight and incorporates a bento-style everything search that displays results from multiple sources like our catalog, articles, and databases, each in its own section. At the time, archival materials appeared in two places: books and media through the collection level MARC records, and digitized collections for items that have been digitized. And we saw this as an opportunity to add ArchivesSpace results directly to this page to create a more centralized search experience for archival materials, bringing in richer finding aid data beyond the collection level. And because we already had this bento framework in place, along with access to the ArchivesSpace API, we knew this was something we could implement fairly easily. Before development, we defined what ASpace records we wanted to include and what information to display. So we used the ASpace PUI as a starting point, then trimmed it down to what would be most useful in the library search context. We decided to focus on publicly available records across our repositories and exclude certain types like subjects. For each result, we wanted to display the display to include title, record type, date, and the collection information when applicable. With that scope in mind, I looked at the API documentation and used Postman to test queries and better understand the data returned. We ended up using the search endpoint with parameters to return only published, non-suppressed records and to control the types of results that were returned. This allowed us to build a new archival collections bento with control over which types of records are included in the search results. And it works great for us, but with one note, during implementation, we noticed that results from the API weren't always matching the results in the ASpace PUI. And while we are still understanding what's causing this, we suspect that it may be related to related accession data that's included for archival objects in the API response. So continuing to investigate that and find a solution. In addition to the API integration, the project also involved some front-end work. The new bento needed to align with our existing layout, but adding a seventh section felt awkward. So we created a few mock-ups to explore layout changes and gathered quick user feedback in our library lobby. And here's the end result. On the left is the new archival collections bento, and on the right, you can see how it appears alongside other results in the full page view. The new archival collections bento surfaces deeper level materials directly in library search, with each result linking back to the corresponding record in the ASpace POI. We launched the integration in January, just before the start of the spring semester, and so far the feedback has been positive, and we have been seeing an increase in traffic from library search to the ASpace POI. And overall, it's just been a fun and rewarding project. And it's helped bring our archival materials into the same discovery experience, which will ultimately help increase awareness and use of our collections. Is there time for questions? We can take them. If not, you can contact both of us over email.
You have 1 minute. Well done. So yeah, if anyone wants to post a question into the Q&A, feel free to do that. We do only have 1 minute, so I know it can be hard to get all of your questions in. I see there is one in the Q&A though. So Celia asks, are you still creating bib records for WorldCat?
Yes, we are. We wanted to see how this worked out in general, but we also do still create MARC records, mostly to contribute to WorldCat. But it's also not a horrible thing that our records show up now in 2 different bentos in library search. We like that. So, but that is something we need to assess and see if there's maybe a better, more streamlined way to do that moving forward.
Yeah, thanks. Elizabeth asks, how much feedback did you get from your lobby focus group?
We had either 9 or 10 participants. We had a prompt that was, imagine you're researching something along the lines of like an art history research paper, and which set of results would be the easiest for you to find what you're looking for, because it wasn't specific to the ArchivesSpace bento, but just the overall page design and the skimmability of it. We also asked our participants to rank the different resource types to help us figure out the location on the page. The archival collections material did show up lower, but we expected that just because it's not something our patrons are used to looking for in this experience.
That makes sense. All right, one more question just popped up. I'm going to read it. We'll answer that question. If people have more questions, keep filling them into the Q&A, and maybe if you have time, Katie and Michelle, if you could type answers to those questions. But Christina asks, which departments were involved in the process and how many employees, interns, et cetera, assisted?
It was a collaborate. Oh, sorry, Katie, you can take it.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a collaboration, mostly our library technology development department and our special collections research center department. There were really 3 of us on the special collections side. So myself, our coordinator of public services, and our director of special collections.
On the
Go ahead,
technology side, I worked closely with my manager, Josh Roberts, and then there were 2 developers that were on a 2-week sprint for this work. We also worked closely with our user experience librarian, and we have a discovery oversight group that gave us feedback along the way throughout the project.
Awesome.
I'll
Thank
stop
you
sharing.
so much. Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Good timing. We managed to get some Q&A in and everything. So thank you so much. And we will go ahead and move to our next